Hello, everybody, and thank you for attending this webinar, which is organized under PACE. And I'm quite happy to see that amongst the participants, many people are not PACE members, so it will be a good opportunity to present what PACE is about. PACE is a partnership under the Secretariat of the Basel Convention. And in general, e-waste, I'm sorry, just a second. Sorry about that. Just to introduce you that e-waste is one of the priority waste stream under the Basel Convention, and it's since 2002. And then in 2006, creative innovative solutions for the environmental sound management of electronic waste were required. And that's why partnerships were developed. And the first partnership was on mobile phone. It was a mobile phone partnership initiative, and this initiative is now finished, and you can find all the documents and information on the Secretariat of the Basel Convention. Now, the second partnership is PACE that is currently going on. And PACE is a multi-stakeholder partnership under the umbrella of the Basel Convention that provides a forum for representatives of personal computer manufacturers, recyclers, international organizations, academia, environmental groups, and governments to tackle the environmentally sound management, refurbishment, recycling, and disposal of used and end-of-life computing equipment. As you can see, the mission of PACE is to increase environmentally sound management of used and end-of-life computing equipment, taking into account social responsibility, the concept of sustainable development, and promoting information sharing of life cycle thinking, sorry. You have the scope, and the working principle of PACE are to promote dialogue amongst governments, industries, NGOs, and academia, and initiatives that could be carried out in different UN regions. Also to seek innovative solutions showing concrete and practical results consistent with the Basel Convention and make recommendations. And finally, the coordination and cooperation as appropriate with other bodies involved in e-waste activities. Concerning PACE activities, it is mainly to develop guidelines. Two guidelines were already developed and recently adopted at the last COP. One guideline on the environmentally sound refurbishment and repair and of used computing equipment, and one technical guideline on the environmentally sound recycling and material recovery. By the way, it is, for example, under this guideline on environmentally sound material recovery and recycling that we will find the concept of EPR that is developed. Concerning the PACE membership, there are 25 parties and signatories to the Basel Convention, 11 Basel Convention regional centers, 9 research and academic institutions, and 15 NGO, industry, and industry association. The working structure is the following. There is the PACE working group, which is the deciding body, if I can say so. And there are 6 project groups, which they all have different items. The first 2 groups developed a technical guideline. The third group is on pilot projects because these technical guidelines are field tested and then they are readapted based on the feedback received. There is one project group on awareness raising, and it is this project group that is in charge, for example, of organizing webinars like today, or some workshop on awareness raising on the PACE guidelines. And two other project groups, one on incentive and certification, and one project group on the transboundary movements, which is also working on a technical guideline. Currently, as I told you before, two guidelines were already adopted by the COP. Anyway, there are still other things going on. The evaluation of the guidelines, the pilot project, there are two pilot projects that are in the pipeline, and every year there are several workshops on awareness raising, and 3 were already held lately. The future plans, in fact, this plans is based on the old timeline, which is expected, which will go until 2013, but the PACE mandate was extended for 2 years more. But based on that, we still have to work on the guidelines, and all these guidelines will be referred on the overall guidance document, which will be one of the main outputs of the PACE initiative. And meanwhile, there will be some pilot projects, as I just told you. We will go on with awareness raising. There will be different webinars on different items related to PACE, and also, of course, some workshop. And we will go on working on technical guideline and identify action and incentive that can be taken to promote environmentally sound management. I thank you for your attention, and you will find all the related information on the Basel Convention website. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Patrick. I will now pass the floor to Dimitris Stribos, who will make the second presentation.
Hello, everybody. I will give a presentation. First, I will say something about the EPR concept. Then how we have transposed this concept in our Flemish waste policy, and then some more detailed some more in detail our WE policy in the Flemish region. So it was already more than 20 years ago that Thomas Lindqvist first defined the EPR concept, and he defined it as an environmental protection strategy to reach an environmental objective of decreased total environmental impact of a product by making the manufacturer of the product responsible for the entire life cycle of the product, and especially for the take-back, recycling, and final disposal of the product. Next to this well-known definition of the EPR concept, you have also the definition of the OECD, and they make 2 main points in the EPR concept. First, the shifting of responsibility upstream towards the producer and away from municipalities, meaning that producers are fully responsibilized for their own products and no more the municipalities. So meaning that municipalities should not pay extra costs for the waste management of products that have an extended producer responsibility. The second is more about eco-design. The EPR concept, it gives incentives to producers to take into account environmental considerations when designing their products. Here a small example of the price setting with and without the EPR policy. So you see producer A, you can call him the green producer. He has low waste management costs, but his price is a little bit higher than producer B. And you see that without the EPR policy, the product of producer A is more expensive than the product of producer B. But in the scenario with EPR, you can see that the product of producer A becomes a little cheaper than the product of producer B. And that's because the waste cost is fully incorporated in the price in the scenario with extended producer responsibility. So you can say here that there is the principle of the polluter pays, and the producer gets an incentive for designing products with less waste management costs. The EPR concept has been incorporated in the European Waste Frame Directive. So Article 8 of the Waste Frame Directive clearly states that member states may take measures to ensure that producers have extended producer responsibility. So member states can decide which wastes that has to fall under this extended producer responsibility policy. Then to go to the Flemish level, we have 15 waste streams in the Flemish region with EPR. You can see on the slide that we have 3 different kinds of EPR in Flanders. First, we have the acceptance duty. That is our most important and most elaborate form of EPR. It's for waste tires, for end-of-life vehicles, for used oils, expired medicines, and also for the waste electronics, the topics of today. Next to that, we have also take-back duty and collective plan. I will not go into these other types of EPR because time is limited. I will, in the next slides, I will focus on the acceptance duty. The main principles are that the producer is fully responsible for the collection, treatment, and recovery of the waste of his products. Next principle is that the producers set up a widespread collection network where you can deliver your old products. And most important, it has to be free of charge for the consumers. So each consumer should be in the possibility of going to a collection point and freely deliver his old products that have an EPR, that fall under the EPR policy. It's for as well as for household products and for business products. And important is that the producers have to pay all the costs that are associated with the collection of these wastes for household waste in municipalities. So the municipalities have to be fully remunerated for their for their collection facilities. According to our waste legislation, a producer has two options to comply with the acceptance duty. The first option is the collective option, where several producers form a management body, a collective scheme, and that collective scheme then takes over the obligations of individual producers. That's our most important way of complying to the acceptance duty. The second one is only for some companies who choose that, and that's the individual scheme. In that option, every single producer has to comply individually to all the waste obligations. They have to compose an individual waste prevention and waste management plan, and we as the public waste authority have to approve this plan. Currently there are only 8 companies with an individual plan for waste electronics. Here you can see their names like IBM, Ericsson, Toshiba Tech. They are for the professional IT equipment. Xerox, for example, for their large professional printers. Coca-Cola for their automatic dispensers. In the waste management plan, the producer has to describe how collection, treatment, prevention and reporting will take place. And he has to yearly report to the Flemish government. The second form is next to the individual scheme is the collective scheme. Then what has to be done first before a management body can be set up is there has to be an environmental policy agreement between the government and the industry. It has to be negotiated. We negotiated with the industrial federations because we cannot negotiate with individual companies. There are too many of them, so it's always a negotiation with a complete sector. And in this policy agreement, there is, like in the individual plan, a detailed description of how the collection, treatment, prevention and reporting will take place during the period of the environmental policy agreement. To carry out the tasks of the producers and the federations, a management body is set up. That's the collective scheme. In Belgium, we have one collective scheme, and that is Recupal. So Recupal is our management body for WE. Here you can see a schematic overview of the financial flows. In the bottom of the slide, we start with the consumers. For each product that they buy, there is an environmental contribution. For example, €1. It is paid to the manufacturers and importers, and they pay Recupal with these environmental contributions for the management of the WE flows. So Recupal, they have individual contracts to collect, to recycle the WE. With all the municipal civic amenity sites, they have a contract for the collection. With the retail sector, they have a contract also for collection. With the reuse centers, they have a contract about the preparation for reuse. And next to them, there are also the recycling companies who Recupal has contracts with. So Recupal, they do not collect themselves any WE, so they have contracts with these different partners. With Recupal, they manage the total WE flow. And every year they report to OVAM, the Public Waste Authority. Here you see an overview of the organization of Recupal. Recupal, our management body for WE, it's a coordinating organization, but it's divided in separate sectors. For example, a sector for small domestic appliances, a sector for ICT, a sector for lighting equipment, and each sector has an own board of directors with a separate policy regarding financing. So producers of lighting equipment, for example, will not pay for recycling of ICT equipment. It's strictly separated, so each sector has their own revenues, their own costs. It's total separation of these sectors. But of course, above these sectors, there is Recupal as a coordinating organization. Here you can see once more the financial structure for household WE. Important is that, for example, if you have €1 of environmental contribution, the €1 stays €1 during the whole flow. No one is taking a margin on the environmental contribution. Then some words about the collection network of our collective system. The civic amenity sites are the most important collection points in the Flemish region. You see that 55% of total volume of the WE is being collected through these container parks, that we call them. Every municipality has their own container park where different waste streams are collected, not only WE, but also paper, metals, plastics, and so on. But we have a big network of these container parks that are really important for our collection. Next to the civic amenity sites, the retail is also an important. These are also important for the collection, so around 30% of the total volume is collected through the retail. Next to that, you also have some private collection points, and we have also the used goods center, the reuse centers. They collect around 10% of total volume. So we have, for the Flemish region, more than 4,000 collection points where you can deliver your old appliances for free. You can see the increase of WE collection since the beginning of the Recupal system. In 2001 they started, and now more than 12 years later, they have a collection of around 110,000 tons of WE per year. You can see the division between the different fractions, cooling and freezing, big white televisions and monitors, and others. This means all sorts of smaller equipment and lamps. In 2012, like I said, it was a total of around 110,000 tons. That compares to plus minus 11 kilograms per person per year that is collected. Now, as you know, that around 24 kilograms per year is put on our market and as new products. we only collect half of all the products that are being put on the market. So we have, it's already a lot, 11 kilograms, but we have a long way to go, and there's a big challenge to collect extra kilograms of certain appliances, especially the big white goods and the smaller IT equipment have sometimes troubles getting their way to our collective system. So we have some challenges. Here you can see the collection system, how it works. A consumer, at the top of the slide, you can see the consumer. They have different options. They can go to the retail, deliver their old product when they buy a new one, or they can go to the container park where they can deliver it for free, or they can go to used goods center when it's where it can be prepared for reuse. From these collection points, the WE is bulked and stored in different fractions in the regional collection station. From there on, it goes to the recycler for recycling. We have some legal targets in our waste legislation for the recycling of WE. For the different fractions, we have a target for televisions and monitors, for cooling and freezing, for big whites, and so on. These are the targets from the WE directive. But next to this, we also have our own targets beyond the WE directive for the recycling, specifically for ferro, non-ferro, and plastics. So, for example, we say that 95% of all the non-ferro metals in WE have to be recycled. And you can see that our collective scheme, Recupal, they have achieved very good recycling figures. That so our targets are all being met. Then about recycling itself. The first step in recycling is the manual dismantling of the dangerous components. Before the WE can be treated further, all these dangerous components and liquids, they have to be removed. In principle, it's manual, but it can also be mechanically, but only when there will be no quality loss in comparison to the manual dismantling. So next, when this step of dismantling is finished, it will go to a shredder where the WE is crushed and the different fractions can be separated and go to end processing, for example, to a smelter for the metals. Waste collective systems, they are legally obliged to sensibilization of the customer. Here you can see some campaigns of Recupal to sensibilize the customer to not putting their WE in the waste bin and to take back their lamps to the container parks. And until now, I have spoken about the household WE. Next to this, there's also the non-household WE, and there's a different financial structure between the two. For the household WE, we have an all-in fee, meaning that per unit put on the Belgian market, you have an environmental contribution who covers all the costs for collection, transport, recycling, communication, reporting, and administration. That is different for the non-household WE, where the environmental contribution only covers the costs of communication, administration, and reporting to the governments. So the big difference is that for the non-household WE, there is no covering of operational costs. To end, this is my last slide. Here you can see how the Recupal system works for waste from companies. So for waste from consumers, I have told there are different options: container parks, used goods centers, retail. It's different for companies. There, Recupal has set up a charter system, which is more where the private operators have more freedom to freely negotiate a price with the discarder of the WE. So, for example, a company discards itself of their professional WE. They contact a collector who has a charter contract with Recupal, but they freely negotiate the price between the company and the collector. Recupal does not interfere in that. Next to that, of course, the collector is obliged contractually to give all their collected WE to another operator who has a charter operator contract with Recupal. So in this way, and all important here to mention is also that in this transfer of the WE to the recycler, there is also no interference of Recupal in the financial agreements. So there is more a market play that is here than in the household situation. The system has been put up to stimulate the collection of waste, waste from companies, because that's a big challenge for us. There has to be more collection of this waste from companies. Until now, Recupal has been able to collect a lot of WE from households, but from WE from companies, there's a long way to go. Okay, I think my time is out now, and I'm finished. I hope it was interesting for you, and you can, of course, ask some questions during the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Dimitri. I will now pass the floor to Carlos Hernandez, who will make the third presentation. One moment, please. Carlos, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Well, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for attending this webinar. I would like to share with you this slides about how EPR has been implemented here in our country, Colombia. I go through this slide first, a little small introduction about Colombia, then how has been the approach for WE management, and then I would like to talk about the current status on generation, legal framework, and implementation of this WE systems, and something about the recycling infrastructure and challenges we are facing right now. Colombia is a country located in the north of South America. We are 47 million people in an area with 1,100,000 square kilometers. And Bogotá is the capital where I come from, with a population about 7 million people. I work for the Clean Production Center as the coordinator of the e-waste program. This project has been funded by the Swiss government through the Secretary of State for Economic Affairs, and EMPA is the international executor because of extensive worldwide experience in this issue. As you are aware, perhaps EMPA is working in Switzerland as auditor of collective systems and street for recycling and sense in collaboration with the Ministry of Environment. Our e-waste project began just in 2007, so this is a new program actually, and then last year in 2012. On the right side of the page, we see the Colombian actors. Within the framework of this project, we have interacted with public entities such as Ministry of Environment and Ministry of ICT, and the program Computers for Children, and also with private entities such as the CCIT and the National Association of Entrepreneurs, ANDI, which is the largest and important industry association in Colombia. So with these factors, a technical committee was created in 2009 to discuss the approach we wanted to give to the management of the waste in our country. There were many difficulties to be faced in the operation of this public-private table, but progress was made mainly on regulatory issues at the beginning. Here we can see the main aspects that have been taken into account for the management of e-waste in our country. So I would like to know that the extended producer responsibility has been one of the main pillars for the operation of payback systems currently operating in Colombia. About regeneration, some diagnoses have been developed to determine the amounts of some streams of e-waste generated, such as computers, cell phones, refrigerators, TV video and audio equipment, and others. Furthermore, the country has been taking normative development, as we shall see later. It is also important to know that the proper functioning of the payback systems, such as bulbs and computers, the governance that has offered the National Association of Entrepreneurs, ANDI, has been a key factor of success. Let's see some data on the amounts of estimated generation. As has been the global trend, the generation of e-waste in our country has been increasing. It is estimated that by 2012, it could have been generated about 180,000 tons, including all the same categories considered in the WE directive. This means a generation of 3.9 kilograms per capita. It is low if you compare with Europe, for example. And speaking only on computers and peripherals, it is estimated that in 2012 were generated about 15,000 tons. Formal recycling companies have also been increasing. However, the amount recycled by these companies is still low, more or less 27%. It is also important the jobs generated by this industry, recycling industry. As you can see, it is about 600. This slide shows the estimated quantities of computers generated by 2020. And in 2011, it was generated about 10,000 to 12,000 tons, and up to 2011, it is the amount accumulated is estimated in 70,000 and 90,000 tons only of e-waste. And this shows the generation of some household appliances, for example, the audio and video equipment, TV sets, washing machines, and refrigerators, and how these quantities have been increasing in the last 5 years. Something about the legal framework. In July 2010, the Ministry of Environment used 3 resolutions on separate collection systems and environmental management of waste. This resolution 1512 for computers and peripherals, resolution 1511 for luminaries, actually bulbs, and resolution 1297 for batteries and portable accumulators. It is important to highlight that in this resolution it was not mentioned explicitly the extended producer responsibility, but this principle is accepted implicitly by imposing obligation to the producer to make the collection and environmental management of these devices once they become waste. These resolutions define as producer to the manufacturer, importer, assembler, in the case of computers, and to which distribute with a known brand. The products covered by these resolutions are defined according to a tariff classification as well as in annual production. For example, in the case of light bulbs, the standard applies to those producing 6,000 units or more per year. In the case of computers, to those producing 100 more units per year. Then these resolutions require submission of a plan that must be approved by the National Environmental Licensing Authority. There are collection goals that are based on the units put in the market 2 years earlier. In the case of computers, it starts with 5% and increases by 5% each year until it reaches 50% in 10 years. It means 2021. Also, the speed of the role is based on the EPR. All actors have obligations well defined in these resolutions, and activities such as storage, treatment, utilization, and disposal require environmental license. Here is a summary on the responsibilities assumed by each actor. The producer is responsible to hold on the system, to finance the system based on the non-profit, to organize the daily operation, implementation of the system, and to get information to the consumer. Distributors are responsible to give logistic support to producers, especially with the collection point, and consumers are liable to return equipment in collection points free of charge. And recyclers are responsible for dismantling and recycling according to the national and local environmental requirements, especially with the environmental license. And logistic contractors are responsible to transport from suppliers to collection points to recycling companies. And in this slide, we can see a summary of the responsibilities of environmental authorities. For example, the Ministry of Environment has a maximum audit control. It is responsible to use the specific regulation and public policies on the management, and the National Authority for Environmental Licenses are responsible for the assessment and monitoring the payback systems. We have local environmental authorities and municipalities who are responsible to support producer programs, diffusion, and awareness, and they are responsible also to the surveillance and control of the management activities. Currently, we have several payback systems operating in the country. We have some of these payback systems for expired medicines, for tires, for pesticides, batteries, but only 2 of these payback systems are for e-waste. The implementation of the payback system could be individual or collective. In this sense, there are 2 individual systems for bulbs and 1 collective system covering together 80% of the market. The collection goal for 2012 was 1 million to 200,000, and it was achieved. For computers, there are 13 individual systems and one collective system. This is the newest collection system of all, so the targets set for 2012 were not met. The programs are evaluated as shown here in this slide. There is a national licensing authority who follows up on the goals to the annual report that producers have to submit. And this authority generates administrative acts in order to accept, to approve, or deny, and also to impose a specific obligation to the programs. I would like to talk just a little about this collective system for computer. It's actually a management body called EcoComputo, because it was something that we strongly support on our project, the project we coordinate. And it is a non-led initiative, and currently there are 47 companies, including OEMs, importers, wholesalers, and local assemblers. And the market share of these 47 companies is about 51%, and this body, this collective system, is open to new members. It is the newest, as I said before, the newest system in Colombia, and it began operations just last year. Here are the 2012 targets for this collective system. Of the 461 tons proposed, were collected only 190 tons. And arguably was a learning year. So far this year, 2013, they have collected about 200 tons, so it is improving the collection. Another important aspect that I want to refer is in the legal framework is a specific bill for e-waste that has already been approved by the Congress, and is expected a presidential approval for next month. One of the most important features of this bill is that it says it establishes guidelines for the adoption of a public policy on waste management, and it applies to all waste categories. So far we only have some votes for computers and bulbs, as I said before, but it applies to all waste categories. And other important thing is that the residue management is differentiated, so it's not hazardous waste, but the Ministry of Environment has to normal this thing. And for the first time in our legislation, the EPR is a main principle in order to implement these actions. Okay. About the recycling infrastructure in our country, the common practices are disassembly practice, recycling, and the recycling of copper, ferrous metal, but the printed circuit boards are normally exported, and disposal of hazardous and non-hazardous waste are made here in landfills. Since 2000, more than 120,000 PCs have been donated to the program Computers for School. That is a public program. There are 3 formal companies authorized for dismantling. Only 3 of yours are with large experience and joint ventures with international recyclers. And there is a growing interest of new companies entering to this market. And we have 10 formal companies authorized for collection and storage only. The capacity is very low for the formal companies, but we have a high collection efficiency by informal sector. Informal sector is very important because they are very important for this collection, and more than 50% of computers are collected by this informal sector. And the scheme for the companies, and mainly for formal companies, I mean, it is B2B. And finally, some challenges we are facing. One of them is the institutional coherence and cross-curricular subject. That is one of the most important things that we have to achieve. And the participation of all stakeholders is something we must solve. About recycling infrastructure, the challenge is how to achieve the best valorization of waste and proper disposal of non-recoverable fractions. We have no goals for recycling, as Dimitri said before in his country. We have not these goals for recycling, for example, ferrous and ferrous metal. Another issue that concerns us and which we are currently working on is the adoption of technical standards for the management of fleet, which could be adapted to the reality of the country. Finally, we must know how to establish a regional strategy for the environmental sound management of waste, but following, of course, the guidelines of the Basel Convention. Here are some websites I often recommend. And at the top, the right, you can see our website, right.org.co. So you can download the diagnosis and other studies that have been developed under our project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, Carlos. Now we would like to welcome questions from participants. We will leave you a few minutes to think about the questions you would like to ask. To send a question by chat, please remember that you need to open your chat window. You can also raise your hand and I will give you the floor in the order of appearance. In that case, please remember to unmute your microphone and then mute it back after our exchange. We will mute ourselves during this short period.